Welcome to Multiline Designs. Today I'll show you how to use EPLAN with Google Translate. So a customer recently hired me to create a new parts database for them. They want to begin using EPLAN soon, and they want to be productive with it as quickly as possible. They also have operations in a few different countries, and they want the parts database to be translated into a few languages. Back a few years ago, I would simply create a missing word list, which is just an Excel spreadsheet with English typically in one column and the desired translation languages in another column. I would then send this document to the customer and ask them to fill out the missing descriptions in the list. In many cases, this could include several hundred entries, and it would often take weeks or a month to get that list back, as all the entries needed to be manually entered. Today I'll show you how to do the same thing in about 10 minutes using Google Translate. Okay, I hear you. Using Google Translate will not be 100% accurate, and I agree, but it may be 75% accurate or more, which means a lot less work for you and your customer, which also means faster completion of your projects. As of 2018, Google Translate is capable of translations in over 100 different languages, and it has about 500 million user visits per day. It also performs about 100 billion translations per day. That sounds like a tool I want to try using. For this video, we'll use a demo parts database and a new empty translation database. This will help when we compare the before and after data, so it'll be clear if the data transfer is working. We don't need a project loaded for this demonstration. All we need is the parts database and then translation database. The process can be seen here in this diagram. First, we'll use the tools built into EPLAN to move the data out of the parts database and into the translation database. We'll then export the data to a text file. Next, we'll open a Google Sheets document and import the text data. We'll then use a Google Translate function, which is built into the Sheets app, to translate the data. Once we have completed the translation, we'll export the data back to a text file and bring it back into EPLAN. So let's begin. I already have my parts database connected in EPLAN, but let's go ahead and review the translation dictionary and then create a new blank database for this demo. So to access the translation dictionary, I go to Utilities, Translation, Edit Dictionary. Once I'm in here, I can go to the Edit Words tab, scrolling down here to see that verify that I have words in my dictionary. And when I view the keyword dialog on the right, I can see that many of these already have translations for them. So depending on where these parts came from or where these translation words came from, I want to wipe one of these out and start from scratch. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this. I'm going to navigate my mouse up to the settings icon, which is the orange wrench. I'm going to click on that, and my settings dialog is going to appear. And because I don't have a project loaded, I won't see the project folder. I'm going to go straight to the user folder, the translation subfolder, and then select the dictionary. All right, and in here I have, I believe, the default translate MDB file. I'm going to click on the three dots here, the ellipses, and show you that I should have a new folder in here called Demo that I created. If you don't have that and you want to follow along, go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and delete this one. And I'm going to create a new translation database in here called, I'll just leave it as demo _translate, demotranslate.mdb. All right. And when I hit save, that will create the new database table with the desired path. All right. So I've got that. Let me say OK. And if I go back to my dictionary to check it, that's Utilities, Translation, Edit Dictionary, I will see that it's empty, empty, empty. All right. Which is what we want. Okay, now that we've created our translation database or backed yours up and connected to the new one, I'm going to go to my parts manager, Utilities, Parts Management. I'm going to select that. I'm going to review that I have a parts database full of parts and text. All right. I'm now going to go down to the extras tab and we're going to begin the export process. So I'm going to select extras and then translation. This menu reads a little strangely in that the menu sub-items seem to be written, or the words chosen, with respect to you being in the translation database, not the parts management database. All right. So regardless, we're looking for the import part texts selection, right? So what we want to do is import parts texts from the parts database into the translation database. That's basically how that reads. All right. So I'm going to select that. And you can pick as many as you want. For the purpose of this demo, I don't want to overly burden the translation process. So I'm just going to select English. I'm going to hold down my control key, select German, and then Korean. I like Korean because they don't use a standard, alphabet. So their characters are drastically different. So when you see it in the database, you recognize it immediately. So I'm going to select OK. And it's going to tell me that these languages don't already exist in the database because it's brand new. It's empty. I'm going to say yes to all. And it's going to create those languages in the database and import the text over. All right. So I can close this out now and go back to the translation database. That's Utilities, Translation, Edit Dictionary. And when I do this, I can bring up the Edit Words tab, and I'll now see that I have what was formerly an empty database now has quite a bit of text in it. And some of this does have Korean and some of it does have German. All right. The parts database that I used originally must have had at least some of the parts came from the EPLAN data portal, which offers parts, manufacturer's parts information in one or more languages, right? So I'll go ahead and create a missing words list for this now. And then we'll go ahead and export that over to Google Sheets and use the Google Translate function over there, okay? Okay, now we can proceed to create our, export our data. I'll go to Utilities, Translation, Edit Dictionary. Now we have the ability to export the whole thing or just a missing words list. I'll select the missing words list. I'm going to go to the Management tab and then Extras. And then I'm going to select Export Missing Words List. I've gone ahead and created one previously. I'll type in the name of this demo or missing words list and hit save. This is stored as a subfolder in my translation folder. I'm going to select all the languages that I want to include in this. In this case, it's going to be German and Korean, as well as the system language, which will be English. That's not shown. All right. Now, if I go and open Explorer here, all right, and go to my system master data and go to the translation folder. I should have a demo folder, and there's my missing words list. If I double click on it and open it up, I'll see a bunch of text in here, but importantly is right here, the header. All right. So the first column, my header will designate the reference language or the system dialog language, followed by German, followed by Korean. And I believe the order of this list is determined by the order that these languages appear in the translation list, pull down, by like a pull down list index value. So regardless, it's in there and it's tab separated index variables. So I'm going to go ahead and close that, and in the next part we'll bring it into Google Sheets. Okay, the next thing we want to do is open a Chrome browser and load Google Sheets, at which point we'll import our text file. So I'm going to launch Google. I'm going to type in Sheets. Google Sheets free online. You can also go to Google Drive. I'm going to select a blank spreadsheet, and now I'm going to import or upload the text file. So I'm going to select File, Import. It's File, Import. And when the Import File dialog appears, I'm going to go over to the far right and select Upload. Now, if you have the text file handy, it's on another screen or that you can see, you can just drag and drop it right here. I'm going to select a file from your device. I'm going to go to my translation folder. I'm going to go to my demo folder, and there's my missing words list right there. All right. I'm going to select Open. It will upload the data. I'm going to select my import location is going to be replace spreadsheet. I already have one open. There's nothing on it. It'll just put the data on this sheet. It's going to detect the separator value automatically. And then down here, just because I've got years of experience using Excel, I don't like it when any of these applications mess with my numbers. So I'm going to not let it convert any of my numbers. Especially with the parts database, there's all sorts of opportunities to have, leading zeros for a part number. And sometimes, you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to go ahead and import my data, and it should populate the sheet. Okay. Next, we'll talk about how to use the Google Translate function. Okay, in this part, I want to just first show you how we're going to set up the translation function. All right, Google Sheets, if you're not already aware of it, is the Excel knockoff for Google Sheets. It works in very similar ways, but in this instance, it has a very cool function that Excel doesn't have, and that is the Google Translate function call. All right. What we're going to do is basically pass it a reference cell, right? And then the two languages to compare. And one is the comparison language, and the second is the translation language, or the reference language and the translate language. To do this, we're going to first pass it a cell to reference, and then two translation codes, right? These translation codes, you can find them online if you just type in Google Translate language codes or ISO 639-1, right? And if you're used to using the translation dictionary in EPLAN, you'll recognize some of these. It doesn't use like the 4-character or 5-character code. It's simply 2 digits, so that's a little different, but they look very familiar to you, most EPLAN users. All right, so in this case, this example shows that we're referencing an English word and we're going to translate it into Korean. So the function call would be Google Translate, followed by the first parameter that we pass to it would be A2. That would be the first cell or the reference cell. We're going to tell Google Translate that that cell that we're passing it is English, and we want to translate to Korean. All right. So that's the function call right there. So in here I have it spelt out. The reference cell A2, translate from English to Korean. All right. So let's go ahead and try that. Okay, we're back to our Google Sheets, and we want to begin the translation process. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get in here and hover my mouse over the separator between column A and column B, and I just want to move it to the right to free up some room. So that will allow, that'll just make it easier for us to see what's going on and that the translations are taking effect. The next thing I want to do is I went to my notes here and wrote down that Google Translate function. Let me first start by typing it in here to show you that it works just like it does in Excel. I'm going to type in equals Google, and you'll see the dialog will appear that has the function in it. I'll pre-select Google Translate, and when it does, it'll walk me through the parameters that I can pass to it. All right, so I'm going to just go ahead and copy and paste in what I've already got. So I'm going to use Google Translate. The first parameter is A2, followed by the first language code, the reference language code, followed by the second language code. Now you can add spaces in here. I've done it a few different ways. The spaces don't seem to bother it, but you do need the quotes around the language codes. So I'm going to go and edit this so that the first one references EN for English. And this is German, so the second code is going to be DE for German. All right. So again, I'm referencing the English cell A2. That's the reference cell, which happens to be English, right? Because Google Translate needs to know what language it's translating from. And here is the destination language, which is German. All right. So I've got that entered, and I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard, and poof, the translation is done. I'm going to go ahead and paste this in as well for column C, or Korean. Let me click on here, and I'm going to make sure it's referencing cell A2 in English. In the first language, I'm going to delete my references here and type in English and EN for English, and then I'm going to type the translation language. I need KO for Korean. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And now I've got a conversion in German and Korean. So I want to go ahead and shift select both of those. And now I want to grab the lower right hand corner of the cells, and I'm going to hold my left mouse key down, and I'm going to drag and fill down. All right. And what that's going to do is it's going to copy that formula down into all these cells, and boom, I have gone ahead and translated everything. Now, again, is this 100% accurate? Probably not, no, but I bet it's a very high percentage. So they're going to complete their project much quicker by reviewing this and then editing it, as opposed to me just sending them a big empty, spreadsheet with hours or days worth of work. All right. So I'm going to continue. Now that the translation is done, I want to export the data back to my translation folder so that I can then bring it into EPLAN. So I'm going to select File, Download As, Tab Separated Values. All right. And when I do, it's going to bring up my EPLAN System Master Data folder, my translation subfolder, and it's already pointed right to my demo folder because I've been in here. So I'm going to type in, I'm going to use TR in my name for missing words list, because I already have a missing words list in there when we send it out. And rather use a TSV file, I'm going to use a TXT file. All right. And I'm going to say save. And it says it's already there. I'm going to say okay. All right. So now let's go back into EPLAN and bring that in. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and launch EPLAN. And I'm going to go back to my dictionary. So that's Utilities, Translation, Edit Dictionary. And I'm going to go to my Management tab and then select Extras. All right. That's Management and then Extras. And now I'm going to select Import. All right. And when I select Import, I'll get this dialog that pops up. And I want to navigate to my translation folder. And in here I have my demo subfolder. And here is my translated missing words list right here. I'm going to select that. And it's going to ask me what the source language is. And the source language is the reference language. And that's English in my case. It may be something else in yours. and it's going to ask me that there's already some translations. Do I want to go ahead and overwrite them? If you're bringing in data into a real database that already has translations and you've already spent time, I would say no. But in my case, I'm going to say yes to all. All right. So now when I go to my edit words, I should now see German, English, and Korean for just about everything in here. All right. And if I go to my parts manager, all right, I can go down to translation and settings. I can switch my source language from my dialogue language, in this case, to Korean. All right. And now anything that's been translated, it will now show the data over in the parts manager in those alternate languages. Okay. So that concludes the video. I hope that you found it helpful. That was a function that I didn't know was available in Google Sheets, and now I hope it helps simplify your life a little bit. All right. Thanks for stopping by. Feel free to hit that subscribe button, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. If you're looking for help with your next EPLAN project, please contact us here at MultilineDesigns.com, your independent EPLAN specialists.